Greetings, everyone, from Grace Community Church, with another opportunity I have to communicate with you some of the concerns that I have. Many years ago, in a university dorm room, not too far away from here, my colleagues and I sat huddled together, listening with eager anticipation to a rough copied tape recording of sensational revelations of John Todd. He spoke of a conspiracy involving what was called the Illuminati. He even pointed out its insignia on a dollar bill amongst other proofs. He told us that its purpose, in addition to worldwide domination, was to silence believers, and it was all crafted and funded by a consortium of several rich and powerful families. He himself claimed to have been converted out of witchcraft, so who's to argue with that kind of credibility? Years later, John Todd proved to be just another egomaniac who ended up being arrested and sentenced 30 years for a crime he committed in South Carolina. I think it could be said that people who create conspiracies are people who sometimes desire attention and power. But there are other reasons for conspiracies to flourish, and that is times of trial. I say all this to introduce a phenomenon of what appears to be filling out the content of conversations on the street and even amongst the church regarding our present dilemma. Outside of world war, nothing has so traumatized the people of this nation as the coronavirus plague. For that matter, nothing has been so intensely communicated around the clock as this present issue, and for that reason, it has a controlling influence on our minds and hearts. Out of this angst of which I spoke last week comes the onset of theories which seek to explain and even control the outcome of our dilemma. Of course, the content of these theories or conspiracies are always negative, with sharp and angry accusations being levied and hurled at those who have sought to inform us and or put temporarily policies in place. I want you to know that I get it. No one, including myself, likes to be told that which interrupts our life as we have learned to live it. We want to go live life and go back to where we were coping with it. In fact, I confess I myself have been guilty, yes, I say guilty of thinking along these accusations to the point where I began to grow fangs and some sharp teeth. Yet as I was reading from the Bible, I was reminded of my responsibility to pray for those whom God has put as leadership over us. Naturally, my first reaction was to justify my thinking as the exception, but quickly I realized I was only excusing myself from guilt. As I came to accept the rebuke, I also began to realize the dynamic of what was actually happening. Do you realize that the Bible itself speaks of conspiracies in several places? The principal one that I want to draw your attention to is found in Isaiah chapter 8. Here, God is exhorting Isaiah not to get involved with conspiratorial thinking as the people were doing, but to go on trusting him. Now, the reason that the people were thinking conspiracies was that they had refused to trust in their God to deliver them from the Assyrians, who were the really bad boys of the ancient world. In other words, what we discover from the people is that it was nothing less than naked fear that was driving the conspiracies. So why the fear? I think we all know the answer to that one. They did not fear God, so as to listen to him and to trust him. So they feared the Assyrians. Remember, fear God, fear nothing else. Incidentally, God used the Assyrians to judge them for their unbelief by dispersing them out of their lands. You know, Solomon makes an interesting statement. For when dreams increase and words grow many, there is vanity. But God is one who you must fear. Now, while his words are not easy to interpret, the context of many rash words being expressed without discretion or knowledge would indicate a similar situation of making rash claims of which one really has no knowledge of the facts. Thoughts that are developed and embellished in minds controlled by fear. Rather, Solomon tells you again, fear God. Now, when you truly fear God as He commands you, there are complementary qualities that attend such a proper fear. I would suggest that one is to truly love others, and that certainly includes those who rule over you. After all, He tells you even to love your enemies and to do good to those who would even do you harm. Now, here's the great positive about fearing God and loving others. It moves you to a place of tranquility and continued trust. Ask yourself this question. How do you feel once you have spent hours of your precious time ruminating about what evil motives lie behind policies or whatever? Do you not feel mentally exhausted, angry, and even depressed? Why? Because you really cannot control the outcome of the events in this world. Remember last week's exhortation on accepting as a cross what you cannot control. Yes, I'm talking about that angst that threatens to become full-blown fear when we struggle to control. Consider now Psalm 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Just prior, he speaks of God being your refuge and His strength, your help in trouble. And although kingdoms totter, it's His voice that melts the earth. Let me end with this exhortation from Scripture. Honor everyone. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the emperor, from 1 Peter 2:17. As far as we should be concerned, those who have charge over us are doing their best to do what they understand is good. You may think differently, but you will find peace along with unbroken fellowship with God when you cease struggling with what you cannot change and surrender yourself to God's care. And don't forget to pray for your leaders with true compassion and loving concern. You'll be surprised at how God will give you a renewed heart of trust. You'll even find that you love them. You might even discover how ridiculous some conspiracies really are. I would, in closing, suggest that you might meditate on Psalm 46 and even memorize it, because it's just possible that life will never go back quite the way it was. Thank you for listening to this.